the infamous coffee mug. Good morning, Joe. Oh no, 1911's. Oh no. Batjack, you've got to grab a pile of 1911's, and that's all you can grab. Welcome back. That's what this is about today. This morning is about the 1911's. Oh no, which ones would I have to choose that would be the ones that I don't think I could let them go. So, but before we get into all that, let's read some comments and let's go. All right, this one's from Slimfire54. I have to agree with you on owning a 1911 in 9mm. I never thought I would until you mentioned it. I decided to trade a revolver for a Kimber 1911 in 9mm. It really surprises me how good it felt to shoot. So thank you for your influence on the 1911. The high power is awesome, and so is your channel. Thank you. Really do appreciate that. That's really kind. That's really awesome to hear. I hope your family will be safe, and thanks for the great talk show, Slim. You're very welcome, everybody there. I do appreciate that. And my good friends over there, Beretta 9mm USA, which I think they have the best 1911 channel out there. I mean, they just do such a great job. And you can see so much awesome 1911s on their channel. I mean, they have just brought out some of the stuff that it's just, I mean, it is beyond anything that I would ever be able to get my hands on to be able to show you. So check them out. You will be able to see their stuff that they do is just crazy. So they left a comment, always wanted a high power. I've got a list of 5 guns. I currently really want a high power, and a modern Colt Python are high on it. Yeah, I think if you guys did get that Python, you're going to really like it. Batjack JW, we really enjoy your watching your videos. My dad and I don't comment often, but no, we've always got the thumbs up. You always got a thumbs up from us whenever one of your videos comes across our feed. By the way, I hope you still have your Wilson Combat 1911. We haven't seen it in a little bit. Young Beretta. Also, my friend, I call my fellow lefty because I am left-handed. And yes, to answer your question, here's the Wilson Combat right here. We'll talk about that. Okay. So again, that big thanks to Beretta 9mm USA. Can't speak high enough about their channel. I really enjoy their channel. All right. Angry Ranger, all right, he's on there. The high power, yeah, the one and only 9mm I've ever respected. Carried a silver chrome Belgium-made model with a factory checkered ivory grips and adjustable sights. When my police department said no more revolvers, it was a magnificent pistol. Other officers drooled when it came out of the holster, but sadly, it was sold years later. One of the few weapons I truly miss. Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted one, and when I got a chance to get a hold of one, I wanted to get it, and just it stayed in the collection for sure. So I know what you mean, and that sounds like a really gorgeous high power you had there. All right, Stephen K. I came to an agreement with the gun shop and bought the 1981 Colt Government. It's a beautiful piece and shoots fantastic. Thanks for the great show. Everybody, Stephen got his Colt. So, all right, KSFWG. There is nothing shameful on your part, Batjack JW. Collections evolve. It doesn't matter if you have 1 or 100. I was just interested is all. Well, hey, no, not at all. I mean, I still got my, Model 29s, and I got that Model 28 that I really enjoy, and a couple of snubbies, and, that's just, so, I mean, I still love a revolver. I mean, you just cannot, it's so hard to pass one of those up. So, thanks for your work in making these videos. I appreciate your efforts, and I've been watching for many years. So thank you. And that's one really cool to me that here I am. I mean, this is like, I don't know how many years we've been doing this, 8 years or something like that. I mean, we've got so many of you that stuck it with me for so long. You've been there forever, and I do appreciate it. And all the newcomers, the people that are just subscribing, I do appreciate that too. I mean, I just cannot believe that this is still doing. We're still doing this. All right, Jerry Johnson says absolutely gorgeous high power. All right, and Scottish American is back on here. The high power is definitely one I will eventually add to the collection. Seen many over the years. The whole name thing must be a YouTuber laptop. Yeah, and I think it is. I think his laptop is fumbling some names, and it's still doing it. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that. So if I'm saying your name, I'm just doing the best I can with what I'm reading here. It's adding all kinds of silly numbers after your names and stuff, and then there's a @ sign before your name. So we may have to change the way we're doing it, but at least I'm still getting to read your comments. This one's from Big Al. Almost, you have turned me to the dark side. 9mm 1911's. I always enjoy and appreciate your videos. Thank you. All right. Edward Newman. I own 13 1911's, most comfortable pistol I have ever fired, all 45 ACP. All right, Lion Quest Fitness. The Scotsman is a patriotic American now. He is no longer crazy. All right, and my man Joe. Hey, I recognize that coffee mug. All right, and Sean Lee. Just curious. Why move from paradise to the desert? If I was raised in Hawaii, I don't think I could leave. And that's a good question. And also, guys, if you have questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments so we can answer them right here on the radio show for you and get you guys involved and engaged with everything. When you grow up on an island, it's just, you know, you're very limited. If you want to, you can't exactly just drive to another state. That is definitely something you can't. You just can't just do that. And you're very limited to stuff. And actually, kind of funny is your comment kind of almost lends itself to my story with 1911's. As a collector on the island, it's very difficult because there really isn't any way to, like, you don't really just have like a huge shop and many shops to go to see a bunch of glorious things. Nothing like near living out here in the great state of Arizona, like, you know, you could say that it just has a bunch of things available and you can go in there, and it's not so much a matter of like, hey, you know, it's more like, oh, I don't want to buy anything, so I don't want to go look. So, but there is limitations there. Trust me, it always will be home. But there is a lot of limitation. There is a lot of limitation with just things you want. I mean, it's not just within firearms. It's within like almost everything. I mean, it's like, you know, you don't just, hey, I want to go buy this really good, nice jacket or something like that out there, or a nice hat or something. You can or can't. I mean, a lot of times you're just limited. Most of the time you spend your money and things you want online. And buying it online, and then you got to deal with oh, well, you live in Hawaii, well, we can't ship out there, or there's a hazardous fee. You can't get ballistol shipped to you. You just can't. It's hazardous. They won't do it. They won't ship you ballistol. Ballistol themselves wouldn't ship me ballistol. It wasn't until a buddy of mine, actually I had a subscriber, Bob Hartman, that I still always remember to you. I don't see him around anymore commenting or anything like that, but he actually sent me my very first bottle of ballistol, which I do believe I still kept that original bottle. I still have it. It's the one I have my sprayer on it. I do believe that is the original bottle I've had. But that's how I got it. He said that's nonsense. There's nothing hazardous about it, and was actually able to somehow UPS that to me. And then I told a buddy of mine that had another shop down there about it, and then he started bringing them in, and so he obviously bit the bullet or paid the large hazmat fee on it or whatnot. So I was able to buy the stuff from him, and anytime he got a shipment in there, I'd stop on by and buy 3 or 4 bottles. I mean, immediately, because once I started using the stuff, That's it. I never went back to anything else. It just, that was my go-to thing. And over time of using it, I don't know if it's just me or what, but, you know, not trying to sell Ballistol here or not getting paid by them to say this. And I'm not, you know, and that's the other thing. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I mean, everything I tell you guys is either my personal experience or whatnot, and that's just what it is. I love this stuff. Living on an island, I hadn't had rust issues. So, but we deviated from the original thing. It's just that there was so much things like that it just becomes very difficult to do certain things and enjoy things. But yeah, if you're definitely a water person, an ocean person, I mean, there's no better place. Me, I watched Jaws back in the early 80s and freaked myself out because that was my grandmother's favorite movie. So when you live on an island, you don't exactly want to watch that movie. Remember the movie The Shallows that came out with Blake Lively? Let me tell you something. That movie lasted forever in the theater because I don't know why, but people on the island they go and see those movies and they freak themselves out. All right. So what I have out here are some of my picks for 1911's that I just you know what, to kind of, you know, do a little bit of you know, like what Hickok was doing a little bit, and I will say that, you know, a little hat tip. You know, these are kind of the ones that I'd have to just keep. I'd have to have them because they're too much of a favorite of mine, and they kind of were also not only they're my favorites, but they're kind of hard. They were hard for me to obtain. They really were. They were not easy. I wasn't able to just kind of walk right into them and get them. I mean, some of these it took me a long time to find and whatnot, or just some of them just became my favorite ones. So a little bit of both in that, a little bit of that. So let's just start off with really kind of for Stephen there. Got a Colt Series 70. This is the Mark IV Series 70. This is my government model, you could say, the old Series 70 there. It's a large letter, and that indicates that it's an earlier 70s gun, and also the 70 is a prefix and a serial number instead of a suffix, so that's another indication that this one's older. I do believe I did look this up, and I think this was like 1974 or something that this one was made. This is just an iconic 1911. This is to me, a very iconic Colt pistol. If you're like me, that if you guys also watch my Stranger Oddities show, some of you are over there, where I mostly talk a lot about movies. We actually just did a episode called Enter Seagal, which talked a lot about Steven Seagal movies and stuff. And so that, you know, for me growing up, I grew up with those Seagal movies, those really early original Seagal movies that were out. So this kind of has a lot of romance with me, and you know, I've always, you know, I chased after one of these for a while. I was never able to really find one. And in Hawaii, I knew of them. I didn't know exactly what they were, but you always heard that term. If you like 1911s, or you're at least diving, maybe tipping a little pinky into that pond, be careful because you're going to just get sucked right in. You always heard that term, Series 70, Series 70, Series 70. This is truly the Series 70 1911, and what it makes it the true Series 70 1911, not to rehash things, is the collet barrel bushing. The barrel bushing on these has a collet barrel fingers on it that grip the barrel, and you can actually see on the edge of that barrel where all those wear marks are exactly where the fingers are gripping the barrel. That's what makes it a Series 70. That, and there's no firing pin system in it because it doesn't have it. That didn't come along until the 80s, hence Series 80. I had a Series 80 government model. It was an infamous gun on the channel. I sadly let that go. I really regret selling that gun. I should have kept it because that was one of my first ones that I had. But it's, you know, so be it. It's down the road now. But they added that firing pin block, and now Colt's kind of way of thinking is what they do is If it has the firing pin block, it's a Series 80. If it doesn't, it's a Series 70. They even re-released this pistol during the millennia era, and they called it the Series. You know, it was basically an exact copy of this, but it didn't have the collet barrel bushing, and that's what made it the Series 70. That's what made it very accurate and all that, because, you know, that really what was going on was the machinery that was used to make that gun was the same machinery that would be used to make a 1940s, you know, World War II model. That transitions us into one of my top favorite 1911s, which would be the old A1. The old Colt A1, I searched down through one of these for a very long time. It took me a long journey to find one. This one here is built in 1942. This is an pretty much all correct gun. They're very hard to find, and now they're getting stupid expensive. I was very fortunate to luck out on this one. A guy had it on his table, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to leave without it. It's got that beautiful parkerizing that's kind of that, it's got a greenish hue to it. You can probably see that in the video. It's also stamped with the correct inspector guy. Now, I'm not a serious student in history on these things, but I do know enough to be dangerous to my own bank account. It is correct to the stamping of GHD, which I believe is like Guy Derry or somebody that was the inspector for Colt. Obviously, the earlier ones were like WB and all these other ones. So you can actually see a list on what all the markings mean and what they stand for. You can actually see those. So they do have it, but this one would be correct there, and it's going vertical. And I think later they went horizontal here on the side of the frame here, right before the trigger guard. So this was not like a, which happened to a lot of these where they were just parts. Because the military was not concerned about collectibles. They just threw things together. So this does have its correct arch mainspring housing that's checkered. You know, yes and no. You know, a lot of that kind of stuff is collectors going really super crazy, which there really isn't much of a, it's like kind of like, well, you know, like Ken Acthorne had a good point. First parts in the bin were last parts to leave, that kind of thing. You know, they weren't building collector's items. They were building stuff to fight and win this war. So it's got the milled trigger, not the stamp trigger, wide spur hammer and everything. And then also, if you pull this back plate off, there's a set of numbers underneath there, and they match identical to the serial number off this one. But, you know, this is a thing of beauty. You know, when you see that, you know, United States property stamp and all that cool jazz and the military splendor on that, you know, that's really neat. And it's near and dear to me because my grandfather fought in World War II, and just to think that he probably had something like that. So that is an ultimate for me, you know, and having a complete package like that was just, something I had definitely always longed for, and finally was able to add it to my collection. It took me 8 years to find one. No joke. It took me probably actually longer. I don't even know. Probably longer now. I keep forgetting about time passing. I always say that, but yeah, long before YouTube, I was doing YouTube, I was trying to find one of those, and they're just not, you know, they're getting harder to find. So the other one that I absolutely had to have, which was thanks to, honestly, Hickok 45, that I found out that Colt did this. This is a reproduction or reintroduction World War I pistol that they did. That one's the model. This is even model of the U.S. Army and U.S. property on that and everything. This one's got the short grip safety, and it gives you a little hammer bite right there, which I think is part of the romance with it. I absolutely love this thing. I bought it, shot it, I shoot it all the time. At one point I was shooting it so much, and man, I tell you, I've had this on the island. It's been rained on. It's been I truly enjoy that 1911, and I chased after one of those for a while. It was almost I didn't think I'd find one. I really started to believe I was never going to find one. So actually, I'm trying to tell you, don't give up. You'll eventually run into one. You will eventually run into one, and you'll have the right finances, and it will be the right price. Or you'll end up with a trade deal like I did with some of these, like that one. I had to suck it up and trade something that was super good to be able to get the deal. So there, and I'm happy because ultimately that's something I really wanted. All right, now moving on over kind of here to the getting a little bit more modern. This one just kind of became my favorite, and this one's the new Colt. This is their new government model there with the roll marks there. That's a kind of a pre-70s roll marks. See the government model right there. Of course, I added some, the old school phenolic resin Colt grips and everything, and just kind of doctored it up to make it look more like a 1950s commercial gun, which is what it's kind of masquerading around as. But Colt kind of popped these out, and I got mine right away when they started putting them out. And I paid like 700 and something bucks for it, which I think is totally worth it. That gun easily became one of my favorites. It's a great example of a nice commercial gun that's out there and beautifully crafted. I like it. Now, mine is obviously pre-CZ, if that matters or means anything to people. So, but that one is mine. That's one of my go-to if I want to shoot 45 at the range. I'm definitely going to take that thing. So it's just it's got to be, So brought out some other things for ambiance. A little Galco mag pouch thing, and and I'm a big believer in Wilson Combat magazines. That's what I run pretty much always. I always run their magazines. I've seen too many people where, well, my 1911 is jamming up on me, but then they're running the worst possible magazine you could run. Go figure. So, all right. This is the big one. This was something that was certainly not cheap. It definitely was not something I ever thought I would own. It just happened that way, and I don't ever see myself getting rid of this thing because it's way too freaking expensive. The Wilson Combat CQB. I had to get this because I have flirted around with this company so much, and prior to getting this, I read all kinds of the books and all kinds of the stuff about them, and I happened to walk into a shop that had this. Brand new. I mean, not used or anything. This was brand new. I was the very first one, other than what they did at the factory, to put rounds downrange with it. And this is it. I mean, the Wilson Combat. This thing is just a thing of beauty. It shoots like a dream. And there was, and I know it. And I didn't buy this because of I wanted to look cool at the range and go, oh, look, I got a Wilson gun. I mean, I buy this stuff to impress myself. And I've always wanted one. I used to always flirt around with the idea. I used to always say, well, I'm not knocking them, but I'd like to see if there were, what makes it all, and really what it is, where that price tag comes from. And it took me a little while to understand and realize this gun is built the same way that this gun would have been built. Okay? So these are put together by skilled gunsmiths and craftsmen that sit there and hand fit and draw file and put these guns together. And that's what this is. This is a hand, made, crafted, 1911. And that's what you're going to pay for. You are paying for the fact that all these people put the time in and hand built this gun and put it all together. And so... And that's where it comes from, and that's what it is. Is it a phenomenal, fantastic 1911? You bet. Is it worth every penny? You bet. I've been asked that question. Do you think it was worth it? Yeah, I do. It was a huge sacrifice for me with money, but God bless layaway. Yeah, I ended up getting one, and it's going to stay because it really is for me. For me personally and my collection, not for anybody else, but it was a prestige for me because that was the ultimate. Just the Wilson Combat, that name always stuck with me, so I've always kind of flirted around with them, and now I actually own one, so that it definitely took the top of the cake for me. and I love that gun dearly. So, and it's got to stay in the collection, mainly. It's just, I mean, it's too good and it's too pricey, and I would never be able to replace that. Unless I won the lottery or something, and if that was the case, I won the lottery big time, I'd probably, I'd buy all you guys one. So, all right. And the last one on the list, and we're going to the dark side, because everything I've showed you so far is in 45 auto. And that's my favorite, always will be, near and dear. It's always going to be a very close one for my... I mean, if I had to choose one, yeah, you better believe I'm just going to take the Colt 45. And, all right. The Springfield Armory, the Ronin. This is the Ronin Commander variant, alloy frame, 9mm. This was it. I tell you, this, once you have one of these, and I mean, this is the ultimate package. And Ken Hackathorn is really who got me interested in one of these, because he talks about that. You got a Commander variant in an alloy frame, lightweight, and 9mm is a hot ticket. And boy, is he right, because it really is a fantastic shooter. So this is the Springfield Armory Ronin, and I love the name Ronin. I think what a great name for the 1911. I'm not wild about the name Garrison. I don't even know why they chose that. It seems kind of silly to me. Just my thoughts on that. But the Ronin is such a cool, I mean, gosh, that was a great name for a 1911. So, but yeah, this package right here, I'd have to say this is definitely a hot ticket. I mean, this is an alloy framed one, and I've done a couple little tricks and things on mine. One of the major things I did on mine, I never would have thought I'd be ever saying this, but guess what? The old polymer mainspring housing actually came in handy. That's why actually my favorite mainspring housing is the arched mainspring housing, and you can actually tell that when you see my stuff aside from the Wilson. A lot of the guns that I like will have the arch mainspring housing on it, and the things I shoot a lot. So if I actually ever find a polymer arched one, I will change it out to that. But I did that solely because the whole point of this is lightweight. And when it comes to the frame, the biggest chunk of metal, aside from the grip safety, is the mainspring housing. So I switched out for the polymer one to ease of weight on this thing. And back when I worked at a range and was required to carry one, I carried this Ronin for a long time. This was the one that I carried the most. It's definitely got some holster wear. You can tell on the top where I strapped it, where the leather thumb strap went, the corners are worn down. And it's just, I've carried this thing. I shot it. I used to just go out there on my break or whatever and just run a couple mags out of it. This was definitely a gun I shot a great deal and had to qualify with it once a month there, and definitely enjoyed it. So, but yeah, there it is. That's you could say that's my top picks of 1911s that I would have a hard time getting rid of. These would have to be the ones that I have to take. You'll notice a trend with a lot of mine. I love the old school configuration. I love the spur hammer, short trigger, arch mainspring housing, just standard, no frills, GI style model with those old school horrible sights that I'm having a hard time seeing as I get older. So, but there it is. That's kind of my favorite. And you also probably noticed that I'm kind of a fanboy of Colt. I like the name, I like the history, the heritage, and the original is you can't beat the classics. So that's where I'm at with that. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video this morning. Go out, be safe, and to the sunny slopes of long ago, as our old friend Mr. Holster would say. Giving you a better close-up of what we brought out here on the table. There's the Ronin there, and then of course all these gorgeous 1911s. And if you also search on the channel, you will see a lot of videos individual on these close up and all that, so go ahead and check that out. I just love the classic 1911 for sure. There's nothing that can beat it. So if you are interested in seeing more of these, check it out on the channel.